Complete story, bound by betrayal, freed by fate. Part 1, The Shattered Promise. The girl who lived in shadows. Isla Grey had always been invisible. Not in the literal sense, of course, but in the way that mattered most. At family gatherings, her name was mentioned second, third, or sometimes not at all. Her cousin Vivian made sure of that. With golden hair that caught the light like spun sunshine and a smile that could charm anyone, Vivian was everything Isla was not. Or so everyone believed. Isla stood in front of her small apartment mirror, adjusting the simple black dress she had chosen for tonight. Her hands trembled slightly. Tonight was important. Tonight was her first real chance to step out of the shadows. The Riverside Gallery was hosting her first solo exhibition, featuring 20 pieces she had poured her heart into over the past 2 years. "You can do this," she whispered to her reflection. Her dark brown hair fell in soft waves around her face, and her green eyes, though nervous, held a spark of hope she had not felt in years. The night everything changed. The gallery was more crowded than Isla had dared to hope. Soft classical music played in the background as people moved between her paintings, wine glasses in hand, murmuring appreciatively. Each piece told a story of loneliness, of longing, of a soul searching for its place in the world. She had named the collection Invisible Voices. "The use of shadow and light here is extraordinary." A deep voice spoke behind her, making Isla turn. The man standing there took her breath away. Tall, with dark hair and piercing blue eyes, he wore an expensive suit that fit him perfectly. But it was not his appearance that struck her most. It was the way he looked at her painting, truly looked at it, as if he could see into the emotions she had painted there. "Thank you," Isla managed, her voice barely above a whisper. He turned to her, and his smile was warm and genuine. "You are the artist? Isla Grey?" When she nodded, he extended his hand. "Marcus Stone. I collect art, but more importantly, I appreciate it. Your work speaks to something real. Something raw and honest." They talked for an hour, then 2. Marcus understood her art in a way no one ever had. He bought 3 paintings that night, but more than that, he asked if he could see her again. Not as a collector, but as someone who wanted to know the woman behind the art. Isla felt something she had never felt before. Hope. Real, genuine hope that maybe, just maybe, she could be someone's first choice. 3 months of perfect happiness. The next 3 months were like a dream. Marcus took Isla to museums and galleries, to quiet restaurants where they talked until closing time. He listened when she spoke about her childhood, about always feeling second best, about her dreams of being recognized for her talent. He held her hand when she cried and laughed with her when she was happy. "You are extraordinary," he told her one evening as they walked through a park at sunset. "I do not understand how anyone could not see that." Isla's heart swelled. For the first time in her life, she felt seen. Truly seen. Marcus met her family at a Sunday dinner Isla had been dreading. But he charmed her parents, made her younger brother laugh, and even complimented her aunt's cooking. Everything was perfect until Vivian walked in. Isla watched the moment happen in slow motion. Vivian, dressed in a stunning red dress, her golden hair perfectly styled, swept into the room like she owned it. And when her eyes landed on Marcus, something flickered there. Something Isla recognized but pushed away. Surely not. Not this time. "And who is this handsome man?" Vivian purred, extending her hand to Marcus with a dazzling smile. "Marcus Stone," he replied politely, shaking her hand briefly before returning to Isla's side. "Isla's boyfriend." The word boyfriend made Isla's heart sing. But she caught the look in Vivian's eyes. A look that said challenge accepted. The proposal that should have been perfect. 6 months after they met, Marcus planned an elaborate proposal. He rented out the same gallery where they had first spoken, filled it with white roses, and invited both their families. Isla's artwork hung on the walls, a reminder of where their story had begun. When Marcus got down on one knee, Isla could barely see him through her tears of joy. Isla Gray, you have shown me what it means to truly see someone. To truly love someone. Will you marry me? Yes, she breathed. Yes, 1,000 times yes. The ring sparkled on her finger as their families applauded. Even Vivian smiled and hugged her, though Isla noticed the hug was stiff and brief. But she pushed the worry away. This was her moment. Her happy ending. The wedding was planned for 3 months away. Isla threw herself into the preparations, choosing flowers, tasting cakes, finding the perfect dress. A simple but elegant gown that made her feel beautiful. Marcus was attentive and loving, though Isla noticed he seemed distracted sometimes. When she asked, he blamed work stress. I am just trying to close a big deal before the wedding, he assured her. I want everything to be perfect for us. Isla believed him. She wanted to believe him. The night before forever. The rehearsal dinner was held at an upscale restaurant Marcus had chosen. Both families mingled happily, toasting to the couple's future. Isla wore a pale blue dress and felt genuinely happy. Tomorrow, she would marry the man she loved. Tomorrow, her new life would begin. After dinner, as people started leaving, Isla realized she had left her phone in Marcus's car. He had already gone home to get some rest before the big day, so she took the spare key he had given her and decided to drive to his apartment to retrieve it. The building was quiet as she rode the elevator up to his floor. She used her key to enter, calling out, "Marcus? It is just me. I forgot my phone in your car." No answer. Maybe he was in the shower or already asleep. She walked down the hallway toward his bedroom, and that was when she heard it. Laughter. Female laughter. Coming from his bedroom. Isla's hand froze on the doorknob. Every instinct screamed at her to walk away, to not open that door, to preserve the illusion of her happiness for just one more night. But she could not. Her hand turned the knob. The door swung open, and Isla's world shattered into a million pieces. Marcus was there, in his bed, but he was not alone. Vivian was with him, her golden hair spilled across his pillow, her red lipstick smeared. They were tangled together, and for a moment they did not even notice Isla standing there. "No," Isla whispered. The word came out broken, barely audible. They both turned. Marcus's face went white. Vivian's eyes widened, but there was something else there too. Something that looked almost like satisfaction. "Isla," Marcus started, scrambling to cover himself. "This is not. I can explain." But Isla could not hear him. The ringing in her ears was too loud. She stumbled backward, her hand pressed to her mouth, trying to hold in the scream that wanted to escape. "How could you?" she finally managed, looking between them. "Both of you. How could you?" Vivian sat up slowly, pulling the sheet around herself. "Isla, darling, I am so sorry you had to find out this way. But Marcus and we have a connection. Something real. You understand, do not you? These things just happen." "These things just happen?" Isla repeated, her voice rising. "You are my cousin. You are supposed to be my family. And you." She turned to Marcus, tears streaming down her face. "You asked me to marry you. Tomorrow. We were getting married tomorrow. The ultimate betrayal." Marcus got out of bed, pulling on his pants. "Isla, please, let me explain. It started innocently. Vivian came to me a few weeks ago for advice about an art project. We started talking, and I realized we have more in common than I thought." "More in common?" Isla felt like she was in a nightmare. "We were together for 9 months. You told me you loved me." "I do care about you," Marcus said, but even he did not sound convinced. "But Vivian, she is everything I am not?" Isla finished bitterly. "Is that what you were going to say? She is beautiful, charming, successful. And I am just, invisible Isla. The girl no one really sees. That is not true, Marcus started, but Vivian cut him off. Oh, stop it, Marcus. Let us be honest here. Vivian stood up, wrapping the sheet around herself like a gown. She looked like a queen, even now. Isla, you are sweet, and your art is nice, but Marcus needs someone who can match him. Someone who can stand beside him in his world. You were always going to be a phase. The cruelty in her cousin's words cut deeper than any knife. This was not an accident. This was not a mistake. This was calculated. Planned. Vivian had seen something Isla loved and had taken it, just like she had taken everything else. The art exhibition, Isla suddenly said, pieces clicking into place. 3 weeks ago, I showed you my new collection. The pieces I was going to unveil next month. You took photos. Vivian's smile faltered slightly. You took photos of my work, Isla continued, her voice growing stronger with anger. And last week, I heard you signed a major deal with the Morrison Gallery. For artwork that sounded suspiciously like mine. I was inspired by your work, Vivian said defensively. Artists inspire each other all the time. You stole my art. Isla shouted. You stole my ideas, my designs, everything I worked on for months. And now you have stolen my fiancé. Oh, Isla. Vivian sighed as if dealing with a dramatic child. No one stole anything. Marcus chose me. The gallery chose my work because it is better. You need to accept that some people are just, more than others. Isla looked at Marcus, waiting for him to defend her, to say something, anything. But he just stood there, looking uncomfortable and guilty but not nearly sorry enough. The wedding is off, Isla said quietly. She pulled the engagement ring from her finger, and it took every ounce of her strength not to throw it at them. Instead, she placed it carefully on the dresser. I hope you two are very happy together. Isla, wait, Marcus called after her, but she was already running. She ran down the hallway, down the stairs because she could not wait for the elevator, out into the cool night air. She ran until her lungs burned and her legs gave out, collapsing on a bench in a small park blocks away from Marcus's apartment. Meeting the stranger. Isla sat there in the darkness, her body shaking with sobs she could no longer contain. Everything was gone. Her love, her art, her dignity. Vivian had taken it all, and Isla had nothing left. Rough night? A voice asked gently. Isla looked up, startled. A man stood a few feet away, dressed in an expensive dark suit, his hands in his pockets. He was probably in his mid-30s, with sharp features and dark eyes that seemed to see too much. Despite her distress, Isla noticed he was incredibly handsome in a dangerous, powerful way that was completely different from Marcus's safe attractiveness. That is an understatement, Isla managed, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. The stranger gestured to the bench. May I? When Isla nodded, he sat down, leaving a respectful distance between them. I am Damien Cross. Isla Gray, she replied automatically, then laughed bitterly. Though by tomorrow, I will probably be the laughingstock of the city. The girl who was left at the altar for her own cousin. Damien's expression did not change, but something flickered in his eyes. The wedding was tomorrow? Was supposed to be. But I just found my fiancé in bed with my cousin. The same cousin who stole my artwork and is passing it off as her own. Isla did not know why she was telling this stranger everything, but somehow, sitting here in the dark, it felt safe to finally say it all out loud. Vivian Hart? Damien asked suddenly. Isla stared at him. You know her? I know of her. She approached my company last month trying to secure funding for an art project. Something felt off about her presentation, so I declined. Damien studied Isla carefully. The artwork she showed me, it was extraordinary. Emotional. Raw. Nothing like her previous work. I suspected then that it was not really hers. It was mine, Isla whispered. Every piece. They sat in silence for a moment, the night wrapping around them. Finally, Damien spoke again. What if I told you there was a way to get everything back? Your art, your reputation, your dignity. And to make sure they both pay for what they did to you? Isla turned to look at him, something stirring in her chest. Not hope exactly, but something close. Something that felt like the first spark of fire in ashes. I am listening, she said. Damien's smile was slight but promising. Good. Because I have a proposition for you, Isla Gray. And if you accept it, your cousin and your ex-fiancé will wish they had never crossed you. As Isla looked into Damien Cross's dark eyes, she made a decision. She was done being invisible. Done being the girl who everyone overlooked. Vivian wanted to play games? Fine. But this time Isla would not be the loser. This time, she would win. Part 2, Rising from the Ashes, 2,000 words. The proposition. The morning sun filtered through the windows of Damien Cross's downtown office. Isla sat in a leather chair that probably cost more than her monthly rent, still wearing the pale blue dress from last night's rehearsal dinner. She had not gone home. Could not face her empty apartment and the wedding dress hanging in her closet, waiting for a ceremony that would never happen. Damien sat across from her, looking impossibly fresh despite the early hour. Between them on the glass desk sat a folder and 2 cups of coffee. Before we begin, Damien said, his dark eyes studying her carefully, I need to know if you are serious about this. What I am proposing is not simple revenge. It is a complete transformation. It will require work, dedication, and the willingness to become someone new. I am serious, Isla replied without hesitation. She had spent the entire night thinking. Crying. And then something had shifted inside her. The old Isla, the one who accepted being second best, was gone. Tell me what I need to do. Damien opened the folder, revealing documents and photographs. First, the legal part. Your cousin has been passing off your work as her own. We need proof that the original designs are yours. Sketches, preliminary work, anything that shows your creative process. I have everything, Isla said. I keep all my sketchbooks. Every draft, every concept. I never throw anything away. Good. We will need those. Damien slid a photograph across the desk. It showed Vivian at a gallery opening, standing next to artwork Isla recognized immediately. Her chest piece from the collection she had been planning to unveil. The Morrison Gallery is planning a major exhibition of Vivian's work in 3 months. It is being called the most anticipated art event of the season. Isla's hands clenched into fists. That was supposed to be my exhibition. I approached them first, but they said they were not interested in my work. Because your cousin got there first and convinced them she was the original artist. Damien's voice was cold with disgust. She has been planning this for longer than you think. I have done some digging. She has been spreading rumors for months that you are borrowing inspiration from her work. The betrayal cut even deeper. She has been setting me up. Making sure that if I ever accused her, no one would believe me. Exactly. Which is why we need to be smart about this. Damien leaned forward. Here is my proposal. I will provide you with resources to rebuild your career, to transform yourself into someone the art world cannot ignore. In exchange, you will work with my company on some exclusive pieces. But more than that, you will help me expose the truth about your cousin in a way that cannot be disputed or ignored. Why? Isla asked suddenly. Why would you help me? You do not even know me. For the first time, something personal flickered across Damien's controlled expression. Let us just say I know what it is like to be betrayed by someone you trusted. Someone I loved once stole everything from me, my business ideas, my clients, my reputation. By the time I rebuilt, she was long gone. I never got my revenge. He met Isla's eyes. Consider this my second chance. And yours. The transformation begins. The next 3 months were the hardest of Isla's life. Damien was not exaggerating when he said transformation. He hired a team that included a stylist, a personal trainer, a business coach, and even a therapist to help Isla work through her pain and rebuild her confidence. Revenge is not about becoming cruel, her therapist, Dr. Chen, told her during one session. It is about becoming so successful that their betrayal becomes irrelevant. About proving that you never needed them to be extraordinary. Isla threw herself into the work. She woke up at 5 every morning to work out, not to become someone else, but to feel strong again. To reclaim her body and her power. She worked with the stylist, not to copy Vivian's dramatic style, but to find her own. Elegant, understated pieces in rich colors that made her green eyes stand out. But the most important work was her art. Damien had set up a private studio for her in his building, a huge space with perfect lighting and more supplies than she had ever dreamed of owning. Here, she created her revenge piece by piece. Tell your story, Damien encouraged her one evening, standing in her studio. He had made a habit of stopping by after work, and Isla had grown comfortable with his presence. Every emotion. Every moment of pain. Put it all on the canvas. The collection she created was called Scene. Each piece was a journey from darkness to light, from invisibility to presence. They were the most powerful works she had ever created, painted with all the rage and pain and ultimate strength she had discovered within herself. The reveal. Are you ready? Damien asked, adjusting his tie in the mirror. Isla looked at herself in the full-length mirror of the hotel suite. The woman staring back was familiar yet transformed. She wore a deep emerald gown that hugged her newly toned figure, her dark hair styled in an elegant updo, her makeup subtle but perfect. But it was not the external changes that struck her most. It was her eyes. They no longer held the uncertainty and fear she had carried for so long. They were clear, confident, powerful. I am ready, she said. Tonight was the annual charity gala for the arts, the biggest social event of the season. Everyone would be there. Including Vivian and Marcus. When Isla entered the ballroom on Damien's arm, conversation stopped. People turned to look, whispers rippling through the crowd. She held her head high, her hand resting lightly on Damien's arm as he guided her through the room with the easy confidence of someone who belonged everywhere. Is that Isla Gray? Someone whispered. I thought she had disappeared after being left at the altar. Who is that man with her? He is gorgeous. Isla smiled slightly. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Then she saw them. Vivian stood across the room in a gold dress that screamed for attention, Marcus at her side in a tuxedo. They were laughing with a group of people, Vivian's hand possessively on Marcus's arm. When Vivian turned and saw Isla, her face went pale. Isla? Vivian's voice carried across the space between them. She started to move forward, Marcus following, both looking shocked. Damien's hand tightened slightly on Isla's arm, a silent message of support. But Isla did not need it. She was not the same broken girl they had destroyed 3 months ago. Vivian. Marcus. Isla greeted them coolly. How nice to see you both. You look different, Marcus stammered, his eyes roaming over her in a way that made Isla's stomach turn. She had once craved that look from him. Now it meant nothing. I am different, Isla replied smoothly. Thank you for noticing. Vivian recovered quickly, her smile sharp. And who is your companion? I do not believe we have met. Damien Cross, he introduced himself, not offering his hand. CEO of Cross Industries. Recognition flickered in Vivian's eyes. Cross Industries was one of the most powerful conglomerates in the city. And here was its CEO, looking at Isla like she was the only person in the room. How did you two meet? Vivian asked, her voice tight. Actually, we met the night before my wedding was supposed to happen, Isla said, watching Vivian's face carefully. When I found my fiancé in bed with my cousin. Damien helped me see that sometimes the worst moments of our lives are actually opportunities for transformation. Several people nearby had stopped to listen, their interest piqued by the dramatic revelation. Marcus looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. "Isla, please," he started, but she cut him off. "Please what, Marcus? Please do not tell people what really happened? Please pretend that you did not betray me? Please act like my cousin did not steal my work and pass it off as her own?" Isla's voice remained calm and controlled, but every word landed like a blade. "That is a lie," Vivian snapped, her composure cracking. "My work is my own." "Is it?" Damien asked mildly. "Because I have seen the preliminary sketches for your upcoming Morrison Gallery exhibition. And I have also seen the original sketches that Isla created 6 months ago, complete with dates and her signature style. It is remarkable how similar they are. Almost like you copied them piece by piece." The small crowd around them had grown. People were listening, watching, whispering. This was exactly what Isla had wanted. Not a private confrontation, but a public one, where Vivian could not charm or manipulate her way out. "I do not have to listen to this," Vivian said, grabbing Marcus's arm. "Come on. Let us go." But Marcus was staring at Isla, something like regret in his eyes. "You never looked at me the way you look at him," he said quietly. Isla followed his gaze to Damien, who stood beside her with protective intensity that Marcus had never shown. "No," she agreed. "I never did. Because what I felt for you was not real love. It was desperation. A desire to be chosen. I know the difference now." She turned away from them, from her past, and let Damien guide her toward the other side of the room. Behind her, she could hear Vivian's angry whispers and the continued murmurs of the crowd. The first seed had been planted. By tomorrow, questions about Vivian's work would be circulating through the art community. The growing connection. "You were magnificent," Damien told her later that evening. They stood on the terrace outside the ballroom, the city lights spreading below them like fallen stars. Inside, the party continued, but Isla needed a moment of quiet. "I almost lost my nerve," she admitted. "When I saw them together, looking so happy, part of me wanted to run away again. But you did not. That is what matters." Damien turned to face her fully. "Isla, there is something I need to tell you. When I offered to help you, it was partly for the reason I said. I wanted to help you get revenge because I never got mine. But it is more than that now." Isla's heart began to beat faster. "What do you mean?" "I mean that somewhere in the past 3 months, this stopped being about revenge for me. You have become someone important to me. The way you work, your dedication, your strength. How you turned your pain into art instead of bitterness." He paused, and for the first time Isla saw uncertainty in his eyes. "I am falling for you. And I needed you to know that before we go any further with this plan. Because if you want to stop, if you feel I am taking advantage of your vulnerability, then we stop. Right now." Isla's breath caught. She had noticed her own feelings changing over the past weeks. The way her heart jumped when Damien walked into her studio. How his opinion on her work mattered more than anyone else's. The comfort she felt in his presence. She had been so focused on her transformation and her revenge that she had not let herself acknowledge what was happening between them. "I am falling for you too," she whispered. "And it terrifies me. Because last time I fell for someone, it destroyed me." "I am not Marcus," Damien said firmly. "And this is not a game. When I commit to someone, I commit completely. No lies. No betrayals. Just truth, even when it is hard." "Promise me something," Isla said. "Promise me that even if we become more, we finish what we started. I need to expose the truth about Vivian. Not for revenge anymore, but because other artists need to know what she is capable of. She cannot be allowed to keep stealing people's work. I promise. We finish this together." Damien reached out and gently cupped her face. "May I kiss you?" Isla's answer was to close the distance between them. When their lips met, it was nothing like kissing Marcus. This was fire and electricity and something deeper. Something that felt like coming home after a long journey. When they finally pulled apart, both slightly breathless, Isla smiled. A real, genuine smile that came from somewhere deep inside her. "So what is the next step in our plan?" she asked. Damien's smile turned slightly wicked. "We hit them where it hurts most. Their reputation. Their success. And we make sure the entire world knows the truth." Seeds of destruction. Over the next month, Isla and Damien worked together with the precision of a surgical team. They gathered evidence, documented everything, and began reaching out to people who had been affected by Vivian's manipulations. They were not the only ones, they discovered. Vivian had a pattern of taking credit for others' work, of using her charm to get ahead. Meanwhile, Isla continued creating. Her new collection grew, each piece more powerful than the last. Damien arranged for a private showing with select members of the art community, influential critics and collectors who could make or break a career. The showing was held at Cross Industries' private gallery space. 20 people attended, including several journalists. What they saw left them speechless. Isla's work was exhibited alongside her original sketches, dated and documented. And beside them, they displayed images of the pieces Vivian had created for her Morrison Gallery exhibition. The similarities were undeniable. "This is extraordinary," breathed Miranda Chan, the most influential art critic in the city. "These pieces here," she gestured to Isla's originals, "they have soul. They tell a story. And these," she pointed to the images of Vivian's work, "are hollow copies. Beautiful on the surface but empty underneath." "The question is," said Robert Morrison, owner of the Morrison Gallery, looking pale, "how did this happen? How did I not see this?" "Because Vivian Hart is an excellent manipulator," Damien said quietly. "She has made a career of taking credit for others' work. Isla is not her first victim. But if we have our way, she will be her last." News spread quickly. By the next morning, articles were appearing online questioning Vivian's integrity. The Morrison Gallery announced they were postponing her exhibition pending an investigation. Vivian's perfect facade was beginning to crack. Marcus called Isla 3 days after the private showing. She almost did not answer, but Damien encouraged her to. "Hear what he has to say. Not for him, but for your own closure." "Isla," Marcus's voice sounded strained. "I have been seeing the articles. The accusations against Vivian. I did not know. I swear to you, I did not know she stole your work." "Did you not?" Isla asked coldly. "Or did you just not care enough to look closely? You saw my sketches, Marcus. You knew what I was working on. And then Vivian suddenly had similar pieces, and you never questioned it?" Silence on the other end. Then, quietly, "I made a mistake. The biggest mistake of my life. Being with Vivian, it is not what I thought it would be. She is not who I thought she was. I miss you. Miss us. There is no us, Marcus. There never really was. You fell in love with the idea of me, the quiet, grateful girl who would worship you. You never saw the real me. Damien does." Saying his name felt right, felt true. "I have moved on. And you should too." "With Cross? You love him?" "Yes," Isla said simply. And in that moment, she realized it was completely true. Somewhere between the late nights in her studio, the planning sessions, the quiet moments of support and understanding, she had fallen completely, irrevocably in love with Damien Cross. "I love him. And he loves me. The way you never did." She hung up before Marcus could respond. When she turned, Damien was standing in the doorway of her studio. He had heard everything. "Did you mean it?" he asked softly. "What you told him?" Isla walked to him, placing her hands on his chest, feeling his heart beating strong and steady beneath her palms. "Every word. I love you, Damien Cross. Not because you helped me get revenge. Not because you transformed me. But because you saw me. Really saw me, even when I was broken and crying on a park bench. You believed in me when I did not believe in myself. Damien pulled her close, pressing his forehead to hers. I love you too. More than I thought I could ever love anyone. You are brilliant and strong and resilient. And watching you rise from what they did to you has been the greatest privilege of my life. They kissed, and in that kiss was everything. The past 3 months, the pain, the growth, the slowly building connection that had become something unbreakable. Are you ready for the final act? Damien asked when they finally pulled apart. Isla smiled, and it was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a woman who had been underestimated, betrayed, and had come back stronger. More than ready. Let us end this. The final confrontation was coming. And this time Isla would not be the one left broken. Part 3, The Perfect Revenge and True Love, 2,000 words. The final exhibition. The Morrison Gallery had never been so crowded. Every influential person in the art world had received an invitation to what was being called the Truth Exhibition. The invitation had been mysterious, promising revelations that would change the art community forever. Isla stood backstage, her heart pounding. She wore a simple but elegant black dress, her dark hair loose around her shoulders. No elaborate styling tonight. She wanted people to focus on the art, not the artist. Beside her, Damien squeezed her hand. Remember, he said quietly. You are not here to destroy her. You are here to reveal the truth. What happens after is just consequences. I know, Isla replied. And she did. Over the past weeks, as evidence had mounted and more of Vivian's victims had come forward, Isla's anger had transformed into something clearer. Purpose. This was not about revenge anymore. It was about justice. The gallery lights dimmed, and Robert Morrison stepped to the center of the room. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming tonight. What you are about to see is uncomfortable, difficult, but necessary. We in the art community pride ourselves on recognizing and nurturing talent. But sometimes, we fail. Sometimes, we are deceived. Tonight, we correct that failure. The lights came up on the first section of the exhibition. On one side hung Isla's original sketches, dated and documented, showing the evolution of each piece from concept to completion. On the other side hung photographs of Vivian's finished works. The similarities were undeniable, but more than that, viewers could see what art critic Miranda Chen had observed at the private showing. Isla's work had soul. Vivian's copies were technically proficient but emotionally hollow. These pieces on the left, Morrison continued, were created by Isla Gray over the course of 18 months. These pieces on the right were submitted to my gallery by Vivian Hart 6 months ago for an exhibition I was planning to host. As you can see, they are nearly identical. But they are not the only examples. The next section showed work from 3 other artists. Young, struggling artists whom Vivian had befriended, studied, and then copied. They stood in the room now, no longer silent victims but witnesses ready to speak their truth. The crowd murmured, shocked whispers rippling through the space. And then the gallery doors opened, and Vivian walked in, Marcus trailing behind her. She looked perfect as always, her golden hair swept up, wearing a designer dress that probably cost thousands. But her face was pale, her eyes wide as she took in the exhibition. What is this? She demanded, her voice sharp. This is a setup. A complete fabrication. Is it? Miranda Chen stepped forward, holding a tablet. Because we have documented proof of every piece shown here. Dates, witnesses, original sketches. Your work, Ms. Hart, consistently appears months after these original pieces were created. Always with minor changes, but the core concepts remain the same. You have made a career of theft. That is a lie. Vivian's composure was cracking. She turned to Marcus. Tell them. Tell them I have been working on these pieces for years.